Hello everyone! Today we have a video that is going to be covering the new Onslaught mode. So if you're unfamiliar with that mode, it is about as close to a real skill-based matchmaking or like competitively ranked mode that World of Tanks has ever had. It blows the old ranked mode out of the water. I mean, I guess old, they're not the same thing in terms of like rewards, so you can't get like the 114 SP2 or Concept 1B. This is a separate entity, but with the same kind of idea. So anyway, it is a mode that I personally really enjoy. It's 7v7. There are some things I don't love about it, particularly the like frontline consumables, but if you've been on the stream, you'll be very, very intimately aware with how much I dislike them. Anyway, that's not the point of this video. The real objective is I want to try and answer some questions that I get on stream, and I say some. It's got to be the most popular question concerning the mode, more so than what is it. It's what are the good tanks for this mode? Is like I've had somebody ask like the 62A. It's just like not quite. I mean, you can do well with it, sure, but like it's definitely not ideal. So I just want to make this video. It's not going to be a long one, just to kind of cover some bullet points of what, in my opinion, are the most meta vehicles, and then we'll throw in some honorable mentions as well, because I know not everyone's going to have everything available here. So we'll get right into it with one of the vehicles that I think will be probably the most common for a lot of players to own, which is the Super Conqueror. With the nerf to the AMX's mobility, the Conq definitely has more of its own ability here, where you kind of trade that higher alpha for just that sustained DPM, perma-tracking, everything that comes with that. You do get, for the most part, I'd say a better turret. The AMX can be a little weird because it's so tall, but if you have someone who knows how to shoot the mantlet, whatever. We'll cover that in a minute. The Super Conqueror is classic. It is, one of the most reliable tanks in the game. It's not anything fancy, it's not anything particularly flashy, but it does a very simple job very effectively. And you'll find that throughout this mode. That's a nice thing. You don't really want to get caught out with too many weaknesses. You just want to be able to go in there and deal with every scenario. And I think the Super Conqueror is a great way to go about that. Next up would be, again, I guess we'll get right into it. The AMX M4 54. If you've played tanks at all over the last like patch or two, you will probably be very sick of seeing these at this point. I personally love it. I cannot believe that they finally balanced the tank in a way that I really enjoy. Typically, the big thing for me is gun handling, and this combined with the alpha and the reload is ridiculous. And that's no different for this competitive mode, despite the recent HP nerfs and mobility nerfs. But the thing is, with the setup I have, and again, I am not running the most meta setup. You could, and probably should, drop vents for turbo to get that mobility back, or you could even run hardening as well. You could drop vertical stabilizer because the gun handling is so good. The only really mandatory equipment would be the gun rammer. But anyway, the thing with the AMX is that you have pretty much no weakness in terms of maps. So the current map rotation for Onslaught is not the same as random battles. So you tend to find yourself in a lot of scenarios where this tank kind of excels. You'll also notice as we cover all these vehicles, again, in my opinion, the most meta, you'll definitely see a trend in their performance and their jobs, what they're good at, basically. So the AMX, you'll find yourself on Ensk or Himmelsdorf or even Redshire, Westfield, anything where, well, I guess Westfield's not really a good point for this, but the AMX really has no negative in terms of its ability within this mode, similar to the Super Conqueror. It's just reliable, it's easy, it's effective. You really cannot go wrong with this. Another one, we'll cover the VZ in a minute, but another one that's seen a lot of success in this mode, and I was kind of surprised, but it makes sense, is the CS63. I'd say this is definitely one of the most meta vehicles for this. You'll see them pretty much everywhere, at least in my experience, in the solo queue. Now, for 7v7s, by the way, I should have made that clear. Just listen to whoever or whatever your caller decides to do, if you have one in the first place. But the CS has found, with turbo as well, some really nice use for picking up various consumables. So you'll notice on the map whenever you join Onslaught, you'll see the little artillery one or the spotting one, whatever, right? Or you can even YOLO the cap to set up some cap pressure. The thing is, though, that the CS with turbo I think I got mine hitting like 70 or 75, which for a medium that has a particularly brawly gun is quite nice. It's really effective. So I've noticed this big time. If you're gonna run a medium, I'd rather be in this over even like an STB or a Leopard for this mode specifically, just because I find it fills that niche really well. Where if I'm gonna play something on a ridge, I'd rather just be in a Super Conqueror or something. So huge hype for this CS. If you have this, it definitely has a place here. Similar to Clan Wars. The VZ55, though, again, you'll notice it's a lot of heavies that are able to trade very effectively, and the VZ is no different. The ability to dump 1,000 damage effectively every, like, 21 seconds or 19 seconds is no joke, especially in a mode where HP differences and, like, active guns is critically important. You really cannot emphasize that enough. The ability to go in and potentially knock somebody out for 1,000 HP is very hard to overstate its usefulness and impactfulness. So the VZ definitely does extremely well in this mode. And again, you'll notice it. The VZ with that high burst, the AMX with the really high damage per shot and the consistent damage. You basically, as soon as you're loaded, you can just fire over and over and over again. There's not any huge downtime. The Super Conqueror as well. Again, it's just tanks that perform a job very clearly and effectively. Where in 7v7s, while the map is more open, and we'll kind of get into this in a minute, a lot of the fights are very concentrated. So it is similar to Ranked in that regard, where the meta for how maps are played is a little bit different. Not massively, but it is a little bit different. You'll notice as well, I haven't really mentioned anything Russian. Now, the 277 or the IS-7 are both very good. I wouldn't put them on the same level as the Super Conqueror or the AMX for this mode, personally, or even the VZ. But they are, I mean, it's really hard to undervalue an IS-7 or a 277. They are, or even like overhype them. They are very standard. They do a great job. They're not super flashy. Again, similar to that Super Conqueror, where there's nothing really unbelievable going on. But they do the job well. The IS-7, you could even drop, what's it called, vents for like turbo or grousers. I forget which is more effective. I'm sure there's a YouTube video out there or a post or something. And use that speed. This thing, I think, with full speed stuff, hits like 65 or maybe even 70. So you could also use this to kind of counter those CSs at the artillery points. The one that comes to mind for me that I found to be really common, it's definitely not going to be every map, but El Haluf, I think, is huge. You could rush the corner at A1 where the artillery strike is in IS-7, and it gives you really nice control there because you have the mobility to get there without getting shot or bled massively. And then you have the hull down on the corner that they added, I think, a patch ago. It gives you some really nice opportunities to cover basically the entirety of the A-line. You could even clear out somebody on the corner, whether a CS came to counter, I guess, push the artillery consumable, whatever it is. So, very honorable mention to the IS-7 and the 277. Obviously not as armored, but the gun is quite nice, especially with the higher heat pen. So, I'd say that really covers the meta. I mean, if you have to bring a light, I'd say the EBR can be good. I've noticed people running EBR on Redshire because it allows you to really pick up the spotting points quickly, and even the really far offside points for the artillery over by the blimp. So I definitely wouldn't recommend playing lights generally because I think the ability to deal damage is just too important. But if you're going to bring one, EBR is definitely the way. Purely for the mobility. It almost has nothing to do with the fact it's a light in that regard, in my opinion. But then again, on Redshire, I've really found that the size of the map compared to the amount of players can be very beneficial. So I played a game last night quickly where I was playing the middle ridge, by the cap, whatever, and an EBR went to the blimp, got the artillery strike, hit us, and then pushed behind us to like the very south, like the K line or whatever, and just bled us from behind. And between the distance, the lack of spotting, there was just no way. So we ended up losing because of that. So the EBR definitely has a place for a bit more of a competitive play if you're going to bring a light. Now, I guess we'll get into the honorable mentions. So some things that I've seen that I definitely would not put on the same level as a Super Conq or an AMX or a VZ or a CS. I'd say those really are the standouts in this mode, where you'll find them pretty much guaranteed in every match, particularly the higher you go. For the lower ranks like Debutante or Iron, whatever, Bronze, you'll see a little bit more varied stuff. I've seen 4005s, I've seen Fosh Bs, stuff that I'm not super thrilled with. It definitely feels like you're kind of griefing your team, but for the higher up ranks and the things you'll see consistently, those are definitely the big ones. As far as honorable mentions, you could definitely look at an E3 or E4 for maps like Ensk. Same with a T57 Heavy. Again, I wouldn't really pick them over an AMX or Super Conq, but they're totally doable. I just find the E3 has a problem in regards to its mobility and the lack of turret. So the E4 might be a little bit more useful, but then again, you trade the turret for armor, and I don't know. E50M is kind of fun, I suppose. It gets a bonus ability where if you shoot somebody like within 250 meters or do damage to them at all, you just get like a flat bonus to your reload, which is kind of cool. The Leo 1, I'd say, again, has some niche uses, but definitely isn't on the same level as anything else I mentioned, especially not like a CS, given what, the roles of the match kind of are. Russian mediums, just not really a huge fan. I don't think they have any real place here. The IS-4 I've seen a bit. Maybe you can make an argument on Pilsen if you cap rush or something, but not for me. What else? 268's kind of cool. It's kind of funny, I guess. Nothing too crazy. If you get a kill, or I think it's like 2 kills or whatever, you end up getting the reload down to like 3 seconds for an overall time of 20 seconds, which is really horrifying because it's 400 heat pen almost with 750 alpha every 3 seconds. It's like autoloader territory. It's spooky shit. As far as, here was a pretty cool one that I saw, the Bat Chat. So I saw a few players play the Bat Chat, and it's definitely a benefit from the 7v7 mode where you have so much more of the map to kind of play around. So one of the benefits is you can play those offsides and sort of those big flanks, and the ability to basically clip somebody out from full HP to 0, or very close to it at least, is really hard to undervalue. It's super strong in that regard, but I'd say it's way more player reliant, where the others, like again, the AMX, the Super Conq, the VZ, you could be kind of bad and still do well with them. Where the Bat, I feel like, due to the timing, the management of the clip, the whole deal, you're definitely going to be better off if you're a better player in that. And even then, at higher ranks, I'd say I wouldn't really touch that without maybe a platoon mate or a 7v7 like Super Platoon. I've seen 50B a little bit, but meh. STB definitely gets an honorable mention. As far as mediums, it's definitely up there. Not quite on the same level as the utility of the CS, but the STB can be pretty mean on a ridgeline with that rate of fire, particularly if you throw in some of the other consumables and all that kind of stuff. The 60 TP I've seen a bit. Again, I'm not really a huge fan. Anyone who's been on the stream knows I have a pretty heavy bias against it. The Kron as well definitely has a place. I think you could totally make an argument for it on Westfield or El Haluf. I almost said Ensk for a minute. Westfield or El Haluf, it really shines. I definitely can't... How many times can I say this? I can't undervalue how good the turret is. It's the one thing that Wargaming just decides to not nerf. You could lower the gun handling, you can make it less mobile, but that's never going to fix the fact that it could sit in a ridgeline with impunity. I've had some issues with Westfield where Super Conquerors will push over and like full commit and will just die, but provided you have the time, you can kind of control the engagement. Kron is classic. It does the same thing it's done for the last however many years it's been in the game. You really can't go wrong with it. Otherwise, I think that kind of covers it. So just to recap, the most meta tanks, in my opinion, are your Super Conqueror, AMX M4 54, VZ 55, and CS 63. Now, again, I'm not saying there aren't other lineups out there. There are plenty of honorable mentions. Again, Kron, 60 TP, STB, Batchat, EBR as well, if you're going to run a light. E50M for fun, I guess. E3, E4. There are plenty of tanks that aren't the most meta. That doesn't mean you can't play them. I totally forgot as well. IS-7 and 277. They're very, very close to, if not meta. You really can't go wrong with those either. Don't get me wrong, you can go around and goof off with like an IS-4 or a Kennedy one, whatever, for whatever your reasoning is. But if you really want to stick with the things that will help with the mode and kind of vibe with it really well, you can't go wrong with the main ones. Think brawling heavy. A lot of this mode, and it's probably the reason I enjoy it so much, is you want to just get in and out-trade people, and I find it to be the most fun. I think vision games are kind of fun, especially in like a Manticore and pubs, but at its core, this is what I play the game for. I want to get in, I want to fight, I want to see who's better in a brawl. It's just the most fun to me. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please, I hope you have a good time in Onslaught. It is a mode that I really recommend everyone to play. I can make another video talking about why it's such an important mode for the health of tanks. I really want to see more from this and an incentive to make more of these seasons and really flesh this mode out. But anyway, good luck out there. I hope you guys win your games. If it's going bad, please take a break, because trying to force it will kill you. It is a nightmare scenario. Have a good time. Please check out the description. Come check out the stream. And I will catch you guys next time. Thanks.